You know, we have that saying that when a person tells you who they are, believe them. Doesn't matter if they're angry, sad, sober, drunk. Trust in the words that they tell you. Similar to that, when a show tells you what it's about, believe it.
Already in your got a fresh line up, yeah, fresh outfit, but I had a parking lot on smash. Plus I got a Chevy with a 454 in the hood. Got 125 on the dash.
Beautiful ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? I'm your host, JLW, and I want to thank you all so much for joining me for another episode of Stand On Business, episode 48. We are taking on what I think is arguably one of the best shows that come out. Talking about Paradise, the show Paradise that is on Hulu right now. All eight episodes are available to watch.
You're gonna want to hear this.
Xavier, is a part of you happy that Cal is dead?
I want to preface everything right now by saying that this is going to be a very spoiler-heavy episode. We are going to spoil a lot about the show. Specifically, we are talking about episode 7, The Day, because I had a lot of thoughts while watching this episode. This episode made me the most emotional. I think it is arguably, not even arguably, it is the best episode of the entire series, including the finale. This is the best episode, and it is arguably one of the best episodes that I've seen brought to life on almost any television show. Like, it is that good, top 10 episodes of a television series. So highly recommend you go in and watch the show. Super spoilers ahead. Now, the show Paradise follows our lead, Sterling K. Brown. If you know the show, This Is Us. He played, is it Roland or what's the old boy's name? I didn't actually watch the show, but I heard his name a lot as I was doing research on talking about Paradise and Sterling K. Brown. Randall Pearson. Yeah, and everybody seems to love Randall Pearson. Every time I watched him get interviewed, people brought up how much Randall Pearson meant to Sterling K, to the world and to them as they watch the show This Is Us. And apparently I got to watch This Is Us. So again, spoilers. If you haven't watched the show, stop now. So Xavier is charged with protecting James Marsden, who plays our president, Cal Bradford. And essentially the whole show starts off with us discovering, along with Xavier, that Cal has been murdered in what should have been a super secured house for a president during the end of the world. Shouldn't have happened, but it's happened in this community. Also, to add further twist or mystery to this story, these individuals are now living in an underground bunker in a mountain somewhere to ride out the nuclear fallout that has happened in the outside world. That's the premise we're given, right? They all live in an underground bunker. The world has ended. Originally, we're presented with this show that is a mystery, a whodunit, who murdered Cal. Several suspects are on the list of who could do it, right? We're seeing surveillance footage that shows multiple individuals that interacted with Cal on his final night, including our lead investigator. And in episode 7, again titled The Day, is basically the day that the world ends. And what I found fascinating as I was watching this episode was the correlations to our own world and how things are currently playing out and how they might play out. And it really got me thinking about who's in the leadership positions now and how we view people in leadership, right? Because we've gotten to a point now where we elect individuals to lead us. And 9 times out of 10, you're hearing things like the lesser of two evils, right? We're picking individuals that were kind of presented to us. You can either pick option evil A or option evil B, and that's who your leader is going to be. And so as I'm watching James Marsden play this character in this show, I go like, that is the individual that people actually would want in a position of leadership. This episode is basically showing us, like I said, the end of the world. But more importantly, what's so emotionally gripping is that Cal is now wrestling with, what do I tell the world? I've known for a long time that something was coming that was basically going to end life as we know it across everything. The whole world is going to shut down. And as it's unfolding on the televisions, and you're seeing people in the White House, right? People that are close to the president. There's a woman who is, I don't know, his secretary or somebody really close, but not close enough to be in the inner circle, who is watching the feed our national news, and it's showing that one country has been swallowed up by water, and they're getting the news that, hey, another country is set to be hit by a massive 300-foot tidal wave. And she's like asking Xavier, our main character, hey, what do you know? The president's been locked up in this room. Nobody can go in and see him. I've been with him since he was a senator. Since the very beginning of his run, I've been there for him. What do you know? What is going on? And Xavier, again, has to sit there and lie because he's been brought onto the project that is, who is it that's going to get to live in this colony of 25,000 people while the rest of the world dies? So he knows what's going on, and he's looking at this girl, and he's got to tell her lies and like, hey, I don't know, but when I do know, I'll let you know something. And it gets to something that I thought was so emotionally challenging for me, in that we elect people to these positions of power who, for whatever reason, it should be that they're the smartest or the strongest or the bravest. There should be some quality or trait that we want to preserve or that we would want to highlight to be the representative for the rest of us, to put them in positions of power. Somewhere along the way, right, that got transitioned to who's got the most money and who's got the most connections. And it's those individuals that get in power. We don't even really elect them anymore. They've already been elected by the groups behind the scenes, the ones with the money, right? I heard somebody in an interview recently said that this last election and the last few elections have been a fight between the oligarchs and the corporations.
I looked at this election as a battle between corporatists and oligarchs. Corporatists, the Democrats, they want something very different from oligarchs. Corporatists want stability, they want decorum, the kind of decorum that Obama had or Bush had, or Bush was an idiot, but at least he had some, they could clean him up a little bit. And Biden, whatever his cognitive failings were, because they want stability, especially in terms of trade agreements, because they make investments overseas. Takes a while for a return on a profit. Corporatists want something different from oligarchs. Oligarchs are about chaos. They're about, as Steve Bannon said, deconstructing the administrative state. Why? Because it is a pure form of rentier capitalism. And by that I mean that they make their money by setting up toll booths, Amazon, all of these digital media platforms. It's not about producing goods. And the more that the state is deconstructed, that's why they want to abolish the Department of Education, everything that we need as a civil society becomes privatized. And
that idea of the people being put in charge in the position of president or senators or just the people who are running the country, the figureheads, the ones that we see every day that are running the country, are no longer being elected because they have a trait that we think exemplifies the best of us, or that puts us puts them amongst the best of us, that we want to go, this is the individual we want to lead us through the darkest or hardest of times. It's no longer about that. It's about who's got the money, who's got the backing, who's got the connections. So when I go and I watch this woman who, like I said, has been with this man since the very beginning of his campaign in politics, and she's wondering, hey, do I need to start making calls? Do I need to start checking in on family? And everybody around her that she's put her trust and her faith into is basically lying to her until the very last moment. And even then, it's not a direct one-on-one, hey, this is what's happening. It's, you're going to find out with the rest of the world. You put your faith in me. You voted for me. You worked for me. You've basically given your life up to get me to this position of power, to where I am now afforded the luxury to be one of the 25,000 that are going to go hide out in a bunker. I'm not going to tell you what's happening. You're going to die and find out with the rest of the world. So when I look at Cal and he's going through the motions of, I'm first told that I've got to deliver a speech to the people. And the speech is essentially very cookie cutter. Hey, we're going through a difficult time right now. Hug your loved ones. We'll get through this. We've been through dark times before. And he's delivering that. That's the initial approach that Cal gives the world, right? That's the initial leadership that he displays. That moment right there is, okay, what a traditional politician gives us each and every day. I'm not giving you the full truth. I'm giving you bits of the truth, and I might even be deceiving you with some of the things that I am giving you, because there are some things that I have deemed national security level of secret, and you knowing this puts us at harm. Doesn't matter if it actually does or not, but this is what I've deemed it. This is what my advisors have told me it is. So I'm not going to give you the full truth, which means you cannot make the best decision for you and your family. That's what he gives us initially, right? But then as you watch him walk around, and in particular, he notices a janitor that is doing his job Everybody else is running around with their heads cut off because they're seeing on television tidal waves wiping out entire cities. They're seeing on television fighting between countries. They're seeing on television the end of the world. And the janitor is mopping the floors, wiping the tables. So as Cal is being brought back and forth all across the situation rooms and getting different briefings and being told we have to prepare for Versailles, which is the code word for the individuals that are going to this colony of 25,000 to ride out the end of the world, he keeps focusing on the janitor. And at some point, after he's delivered the speech to the world that said, blah, 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 continue like life is normal, it's going to be hard, but we'll get through it. They're escorting him to the helicopter. They're getting ready to take him to Versailles. And he sees the janitor again just on a table in a foyer, cleaning it off. And you see that click of who he is initially, who he really is at the heart, the good person in him that goes, let me just go talk to this janitor. And he goes and he talks to the janitor and he says, why are you doing what you're doing? It's my job, sir. Yeah, but don't you think you should go home, see your loved ones? Why? Because it is? I've seen it a million times, sir. When you get to be my age, you've heard it all, you've seen it all. We'll get through this just like we get through everything else. And you see this struggle in Cal's face. And like I said, James does such a fucking fantastic job in this role of portraying the emotions of just like a struggling leader, but a struggling leader with an actual heart that actually cares about people. And like I said, was thrust into this position. All he wanted to be was a high school teacher, right? That's all he wanted to be. But because he comes from a long line of, let's call them businessmen or an influential family, they won't let him be what he wants to be. You're going into politics and you're going to be the damn president. And he's in this position and the heart of gold wins out. And he's trying to get this man to understand that this isn't like other times. You need to go see your family. But this man who has his principles and his values is like, I've got a job to do. I'm going to see my family tomorrow. We've got a birthday party for my granddaughter, and it is going to be absolutely okay. And it's in that moment that the heart wins out over the politician. He finally decides to take off the political bullshit that has come from us allowing individuals that are only in these positions for money and power. He finally takes that ish off and he goes back to being a human. He goes back to being one of us. And he's like, damn, going to Versailles, get me back in front of those cameras. I'm going to tell the nation the truth. And everybody's freaking out. Everybody is losing their damn mind. Wait, what? You're going to tell the world that they're about to all die? Yes. And so he goes back to the situation room and he sits down in front of the cameras, right? And he tells the world the truth. This is not like any other time. There will not be a tomorrow. You need to go and find the people you love and say your goodbyes. Find the people that you want to be around and say your goodbyes. And it's such an emotional moment because this is the moment where the illusion drops and the people that were going about their daily business like the janitor drop their mop and drop their hand rags and go and find their family, which is what James wanted, right? He wanted these individuals to not live under the lie that the business people of the world would have had you believe up until the moment your ass disintegrated into dirt. Also, and this is when it really started getting telling to me too, is like, this is the things I'm thinking about in our own world. The woman that I told you that had been with James, or had been with James is the guy who plays Cal, who had been with Cal from the very beginning, who had known something is up but didn't know exactly what is up, who had basically confronted Xavier, Sterling K. Brown's character, and said, look, you don't have to tell me what is up, but I have a kid who's getting his medicine, and all I want to know is that when shit hits the fan, you'll make sure my kid is taken care of. You'll get my kid to where they need to be, where they can continue on living. I'm not even asking for myself. You don't have to do a damn thing for me. Just please take care of my kid. And Xavier has to look her in the eye and say, I promise. Has to make a promise that he knows he can't fucking keep because it's only 25,000 people and they've already been preordained, right? You're either rich or powerful. Those are 25,000 people are going, and I guess a member of that family. Those are the individuals, right? And so that kid is not on that damn list. And reminding you that this woman has been with him from the very beginning of his campaign, has sacrificed her life to get this man elected because she believes in him, has given him the power to say, I deserve to be one of the 25,000. She's watching the television and she's seeing, oh, the world is ending. Oh no, the world is ending. And now it's time for the president to go back out and face the world, right? He's now told everybody what's happening. He's got to go back outside. And this is, oh man, it just from here, it just continues to escalate because Xavier already knew what was going to happen. As he's trying to figure out how his wife is going to get onto a plane to get to them, to get to safety because she's in Atlanta. As he's trying to make sure his kids are on their way with the president's sons to a plane that's going to get them to safety. He's also recognizing and heard what the president just said. I am going to tell the nation right now, the world is ending. There is no tomorrow. And so he's already planning low. Everybody, get your weapons. It's about to be mayhem out here. And he's absolutely right because the moment the president steps out, everybody that was in the Oval Office, those individuals that had worked for him for the past 4 years, those individuals who had dedicated themselves to keeping this person in power and doing whatever was necessary to keep things functioning, are now asking, what are we supposed to do? And the president looks at them and says, I don't know. I don't have answers anymore. Go home. Find your loved ones. And of course, what happens? Individuals go, wait, go home? Wait, where are you going? He can't answer that. But they know. He's surrounded by armed guards. He's the president of the United States. They know where he's going. They know what he's saying by telling them to go home. To make matters worse, before we get back to that, individuals around him, I think it was the vice president or somebody that was up in his staff that's also got a one-way ticket to Versailles, is showing again what I feel like a more traditional politician would show in this situation. He's saying, hey, individuals, know the president just told you the world is ending, but we need some individuals to stay here and keep the White House running for as long as possible. He's looking you in your face and he's basically telling you, God, you need to die for the rest of us because we're more important. I need you to stay here and make sure that the White House doesn't die until it's time for everybody to die. Give up your families, give up your lives for me, the politician, the spineless bastard that knew for the longest time. I knew 5, 6, 8, 10 years ago that this was coming, that this day was coming, and I didn't give you a warning so you could prepare with your family or value the time that you have. But I knew my family's already on a ticket list. I knew they were going to be safe. Stay here and do for the country. Give up for the country. That's what the spineless politician, who I think represents 99% of the damn politicians out there, decides to do. And so the people lose their mind. They start to riot, and it looks like they're going to swarm the president. And what do the Secret Service agents do in that moment? Well, they do their damn job. Get back. You're going to get a bullet in the brain. So now there's infighting between the Oval Office, the individuals who were just there fighting for the president, and the Secret Service as they try to escort him to the plane to get him the hell up out of here. One individual ends up getting shot. Other individuals recognize that there's nothing they can do. They're outpowered, they're outmanned, they're outgunned. Let the president pass. As this continues to unravel and you continue to feel the emotion and the attention build, they get the president to the plane. And this is another very, very important sticking point to me too, as we look at modern day politics, what the rich and the powerful expect of just normal everyday people, how they look at us. They get the president on the plane. One of the security guards, one of the Secret Service agents who's literally just started the job 3 days ago, he is not a member of Versailles. So everybody is getting on the plane, the president's staff, the rich people, Xavier start to get on, and that Secret Service agent, who's also probably at this point already killed for or at least forcefully handled protesters who want to know, hey, Mr. President, what about us? He starts to get on the plane. What does Xavier do? Whoa. Not you. No, you're not clear for the 25,000 spot. Guy's looking at him. What? No, there's room on the plane. I'm looking at. There's room. No, this isn't for you. It's not meant for you. You weren't deemed one of the ones worthy enough to live through this. You were deemed worthy enough to put your life on the line to get the president here. You were deemed worthy enough to give up your mental sanity to kill individuals that you probably would have been friends with, that you had no beef with, to get the president here. You were deemed worthy enough to do your job when you could have been home with your family and saying goodbye. But when it's time to go to live on, no, not deemed worthy enough. And that made me think about individuals like police officers, those in the military. Before I even say that, I hate one of the things that politicians do And they start talking big and they go, if you mess with us, we are not afraid to fight back. If we have to, we will go meet you over there and we will fight. Who the fuck is we? Because not a single person on your television that's talking about we is going anywhere. They will pick up a phone and they'll make a call and they'll send your mother and your brother and your sisters and your fathers to go fight over there and die over there and become part of a nameless grave. They will be at home and they will be flipping through channels and they will go, I told them we would be over there. I told them not to fuck with us. So, Secret Service agent who just, like I said, probably murdered somebody or at least fought forcefully for the president to get here is now being told you can't get on the plane. You're not deemed relevant enough, important enough, powerful enough, financially well off enough to live on. Is like, y'all aren't leaving without me. And what happens? He gets shot in the fucking head. Without any remorse, without any warning, just gone. Dead. Like that really, 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 really stayed with me, man. Because I cannot stand the idea of how much power individuals are given. Like it's one thing to say that we're going to do for the greater good. A community of us are going to come together and establish rules and guidelines so that the majority of us can be protected. The majority of us can live productive, comfortable lives, right? And it doesn't mean how comfortable like easy, but like comfortable in the sense that you don't always have to worry about where your food is coming from the next day. You don't have to worry about finding water every day, right? Just the basic necessities of living life that should be simple. But instead we have individuals who have taken it upon themselves to be anointed as kings, walking around like my life is worth more than everybody around me, including those that protect me. And you will die to get me to where I need to be, where I can live on comfortably and continue on my line, because I was voted for or because I was rich or because I was powerful. And that is so fucking sad. The agent that gives up his life, the only thing he wanted was, I got you here. I kept you safe. Let me get on this damn plane with y'all. Dies, and with him his line. That to me is a more admirable trait. That is somebody you would elevate. That is somebody who in the old days you would elevate to king and be like, this is the individual I want to follow in a battle. This is the one that we bestow with extra honors because we know that he would do things for us that go above and beyond. No, not him though. No, the person that was elected by money, he gets to go on and continue his bullshit ass line. So they go off and they fly and they land, and then you have the moment where before they get on the plane, the final plane that'll take them to Versailles, there's a confrontation between James Marsden and Sterling K. Brown. And Sterling is like, I can't go right now. My wife that you said you were going to help me get here isn't here yet. And the recognition in his eyes that the president always knew from the very beginning that his wife wasn't going to make it. And him confronting the president and going, wait a minute, I've given everything up to you. I have literally taken a bullet for you. You knew something was going to happen, and I asked you point blank, when is it going to happen? What is it that's going to happen? And you told me nothing. You gave me nothing, and I let my wife go off to Atlanta when you knew very shortly the world was going to end. And Cal is doing his best to convince James, look, at this point, there's nothing we can do. You need to get on this plane and to continue to live for your kids that are on this plane because we're going with or without you. But I would much prefer if you were on this plane. And he's not doing it in a cold way because, again, this guy's a heart of gold and he really does care for Xavier and he's really sorry that he's in this situation. So what happens? Well, what else can he do except get on the plane? And as they're on the plane and they're flying off, that is the fracture that happens between Xavier and Cal, where it's never, ever repaired. Cal dies before they ever get to patch this hole. That big of a betrayal. But again, going back to what I was saying, an individual who's willing to put everything on the line, to put an individual that hasn't necessarily displayed any trait that makes him better than, again, Xavier has shown more traits that would make him somebody that you would elevate, somebody that you would want to follow behind than the president has at this point. And yet, in that moment, you're elevated to president. I've given you everything, and you get to go and fly off with all of your family members. Your father and your kids and your wife are on the list, and they knew where they needed to be. They knew they shouldn't go take no extraneous trips to anywhere else. They had a heads up versus my wife and my kids or going about the world not knowing any different, and I'm here to protect you. So they get on the plane, right? Cal's still struggling with this because, again, this guy's had a heart of gold, and he gets called into the Situation Room. And this to me was one of the biggest moments, one of the moments that made me sit up as I was watching this and go like, this is what I mean, why we need a temperature check when you're looking at your leaders. Again, most of us are not dumb. Most of us recognize what a good leader looks like. Most of us have been on teams or in situations where the person that was unfit for the job is immediately singled out. You know this fucker is not the one who should be leading this team. As much as he is yelling and walking around like his shit don't stink, you know this guy in times of crisis is going to crack or crumble or is going to do for me or is going to throw you under the bus. You know this guy versus the individual that doesn't have to say much, that doesn't have to do much, but just exudes leadership, that you're like, if this person so chooses, I would follow them into the depths of hell. You know the difference between the two guys. And this moment is exemplified by Cal because he gets called into the room and basically his Joint Chiefs in another plane are telling him, our adversaries have fired their nukes. This is it. It's World War III. It's nuclear annihilation. They fired, and the only chances we have of keeping our supply lines safe or our crops safe, which I don't really understand fully, but for some reason they've come to the decision that the only way to keep vital resources intact is to fire our own nukes at these adversaries, hoping that some of them deflect and blow up other nukes and then also just destroying the opponents. And Cal is like, so that's it. We're just going to fire all our nukes off and we're just going to bring on Armageddon. And they're like, we don't come to this decision lightly, sir. We recognize we're not going to make it. This plane is already dead. So it should be a really simple moment, right? It should be a simple moment of just open the box, the football as they call it, press the button, fire off the nukes. Cal decides, I'm going to go in my own room. I got time. I need to think about this. So he goes in his room, and then Sinatra joins him, right? Who's also played by very phenomenal actors who does a really good job of making you hate her ass. But this episode is not to talk about Sinatra, but she's really, really good. And she's trying to figure out, what is Cal going to do? Where is he headed with this? And Cal's giving this great speech where he talks about the things that he wanted to know as president, the things he was most excited about as being president. Do I get to find out about what really happened to RFK? Who really killed MLK? Is Bigfoot real? And the thing that stuck with him the most was that the football, the one that has the single red card needed to launch all the nukes, controlled by one guy, which he harps on, which I think is still a scary, scary scenario when you're telling me one individual is basically the determiner of the end of the world. Could you imagine if you got somebody with a fucking ego in that position? Somebody somehow slips through the cracks with an ego as big as God, who's thinking that my shit don't stink, and if I wanted to, I could end this all right now for everybody, had possession of that football. Cal's not that guy, thankfully. So he's sitting there and he's telling her, what I've learned is everybody knows that this is all I need to start World War III, to bring on the nuclear holocaust. But what they don't know is that I have another card. This card is basically a giant EMP. And if I were to press this button, we go back to the Stone Age. All electronics across the world are shut off. We essentially become cavemen again. But no nukes, no death. Well, not to say no death, less death, no nuclear holocaust. And it's in that moment as I'm seeing this man wrestle with this decision, even contemplating this decision, that I go, this is the difference between a leader and a charlatan. This is the difference and the worrisome concern when you put somebody who is meant to be in power because of an admirable trait that the people have recognized and decided to elevate versus an individual that has been spoiled, treated like an annoying rich kid his entire life, given the world the keys to a kingdom since he was a baby, told that his shit doesn't stink. Come from a place of wealth and prosperity and just absolute, what is that stupid damn disease they say rich people have? Proliferation, I don't even want to look it up. Whatever the dumb shit is that they say that rich people have that justifies them doing dumb shit like driving drunk and killing people. That disease, that individual is in the chair. And to compare the two, when you have somebody like a cow that's in the chair and willing to do the hard decision of saying, I hope we on this plane make it. I'm willing to put people above myself because this plane might crash. we might not make it to our safe zone if I press this button. That includes me, my family, and my children. But I'm willing to take that risk because the world keeps on living. Versus an individual who's all about self, who's all about ego, who is like, hell yeah, I'm pressing this red button. Fuck everybody else. I've only ever cared about myself and power. I get to keep on living. Damn the world. And that should scare you. That should scare you because this is, like, to me, what the show is trying to tell you. Not just in this moment, in several moments, but in this key moment right here. There's a difference between the politicians we have elected to be our leaders and the ones that we should have or should be in the positions of power, what they were meant to be, what they were meant to represent for the people, the ones that would have fought to keep you living versus the one who would have quickly broke the red envelope, pulled out the codes, and have you dead as hell, forgotten about you, wouldn't have even told you the world was ending to begin with, would have died with the lie and then got on his plane and hid in the mountains as you all thinking about what you're going to eat for lunch, watch nukes fly overhead, and in an instant were vaporized. Really, 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 really well done job here because Cal chooses the latter option, sets off the EMP. But that's really, to me, a good barometer, a good check of if you're voting for somebody, if we're ever allowed to vote again, if there's truly another election, free election, think about if the person you're voting for was sitting in the seat that Cal was sitting in and what you think that person would actually do. If it was your life and their life on the line, and all it took was a flip of the switch, which way would they flip? Xavier's sitting on the plane, and he's talking to his wife, who now has come and said, I couldn't make it to the plane in time. I couldn't get on the last ride to safety to come see you and the kids. And as he's already recognized that there's no way he's going to see his wife again, and he's coming to grips with those emotions, and she's telling him how much she loves him, but also, this is what I want you to tell the kids. Tell them that it's okay to be happy. It's okay to keep living. And he's got to stay strong for her because she's also breaking down and saying, I'm scared. And he's telling her, no, I'm right there with you. And then he's watching the monitor, and on the monitor, he's seeing nukes launched and landing exactly where she's at. That raw emotion, putting yourself in the position of, I gave up everything for a person who lied to me. The whole episode is on 10 in emotion, right? From, I told you, the woman who had been there from the very beginning with the president being left behind at the White House. I don't know if I said it earlier, but she was left behind. She was literally the last person. You see her on the lawn of the White House, watch the helicopter take off and fly off with the president as she knows she's about to die. To see that tension build as we get to the Secret Service agent who was willing to give up his life and to get shot in the head, and now his bloodline is gone, to get the president on the plane so the plane can go. To see that tension build as Xavier, who's been this best man, who's been this guy's right-hand man, who's taken a bullet for this man, get lied to about the safety of his wife, and now have to fly off on a plane and watch his wife die and listen to her final words. It is a gut punch episode, one I highly recommend, and one that is scary. It's really scary because, as I said, the show is telling you who it is, and we need to believe it. Whatever it is you're getting out of this, the message, just believe it. Ask yourself, when you look at your leader, is this somebody that you think exudes the admirable traits that Cal exhibits in this show? Or is this somebody who would have, without hesitation, set off the nukes and ended your life? That's it. That's all I got to say. I really, really enjoyed this show. I'd like to talk about it more. I don't know if I'm going to, but it's a fantastic watch. I think the only downfall is the ending. I think the season finale is a little underwhelming just because when they finally reveal who is behind the murder of Cal, it's an individual that makes you go like, there wasn't enough time given to this character. This feels kind of shoehorned in, kind of feels like episode 8 should have been episode 8 and 9, or you should have just saved this killing for the next season, which I didn't want. I hate when they do that, but also this just wasn't it. Again, hats off to Dan and Sterling and James and everybody who participated, because this is a show that works because everybody is great in what they do in it. And I'll be tuning in for season 2. That's all I got. Thank you all so much for tuning in for this episode of Stand On Business. I look forward to seeing you in other episodes. Check out the other 47 that we have, some of the gameplay videos, and we have something really cool coming too as well. One of my first projects that, well, I already did a movie on this, but now I'm doing something different. So I'm excited to share that with y'all as well. So I was your host, JLW. Till the next time, remember, stand for something. Stand for something. ban like Cal did eventually. Or like the woman left on the front lawn, like the security guard with a bullet in his brain, like Xavier's wife, fall.